The story takes place in 1988. The day was not any different except that it was hotter than usual. I was riding my motorcycle to the office. A car swerved into my lane. The motorcycle and I were hit directly. I skidded down the road for some distance before coming to a stop. I was unconscious. I don't know how long it took, but when I opened my eyes, I could see myself lying on the highway. The scene of the crash was horrific. The motorcycle was on top of me. My left leg was severely twisted. Suddenly, a force was pulling me along. I felt very scared, so I kept struggling. Just then, a voice appeared. "Relax, don't resist, I'm here to help you." I gave up resisting because I knew it was useless to resist. I was walking through a dark tunnel. There was a very small white spot at the end of the tunnel. There were some disturbing noises coming from the tunnel. It sounded like a cat scratching a couch, and I could faintly hear some painful yelps. Slowly, all these sounds disappeared. I found myself in a mysterious place. The skies were so blue that the thought of them now brings tears to my eyes. The grass was so soft that you could lie down and fall asleep. The water was so pure. What shocked me even more was all the souls I saw. Everyone seemed so happy. I felt curious about anything here. At that time I was thinking to myself, is this heaven? To my surprise, my question was answered. Yes, this is heaven, and I have been waiting for you. There was no one around me, so who was speaking? But the voice was coming from right next to me. The voice was kind of like when a mother sings a lullaby to her child. "What did you mean when you said you were waiting for me?" The voice told me, "My time on earth is up and I can stay here. And if you still want to go back to earth, no one will stop you." I asked him, "Why can't I see you?" The voice told me, "The reason I can't see is because my eyes are not open." I closed my eyes. When I opened my eyes again, everything in front of me became clearer and more beautiful. I finally saw who was talking to me. It was a young man. He had a beard and his eyes were brown. His skin looked healthy. He was wearing a very clean white robe. He had scars on his hands and feet. A note here. I am not a Christian, and there are no Christians in my family. Yet, now I am standing with Jesus. Jesus reminded me that it was time to make a decision. Choose to stay in heaven or go back to earth and continue living. I told Jesus, I want to think about it. I thought about my mom and my pregnant wife. Again, I wanted to stay here so badly that it left me very torn. I gave my choice, I had to go back. I can't leave my loved ones, at least not yet. Are you sure? I was very sure. Jesus showed me something that might happen in the future. Jesus grabbed my hand and many different sights appeared before my eyes. I saw the date of my mother's and father's death. My mom would die in 13 years. 2005 would be a heartbreaking year. My dad would die after Christmas in 2007. As bad as that was, the next thing I saw was worse. I saw a scenario of World War III. The population of the Earth at that time was already over 10 billion. At the end of the war there would be only 1 billion human beings left. Many countries will disappear from the Earth. The cause of the war was the energy crisis. The climate of the Earth at that time became very bad. There will be no more spring and autumn. Winter will be much colder than now. It is no longer possible to move outside normally in the summer. The harsh environment made the food production capacity drop sharply. Many people will live in hunger. Although mankind could already travel at will in the solar system, the technology at that time could not meet the migration of all mankind. The trigger for war came from a global natural disaster, which made food precious. Allies now no longer existed, and each nation was fighting for its own interests. Jesus asked me again, "Do you still want to return to Earth?" I asked Jesus, what would happen if I stayed? He grabbed my hand again and new images came into my mind. I saw my future son, who was about 20 years old at the time. Instead of choosing to continue his education, he joined a gang. Then he went to jail for fighting. Then later, he died in a shootout. My wife later refound a man. That man was an alcoholic and often abused her. Jesus let go of my hand a second time and asked the question again. You should have guessed my choice. I believe I made the right choice. I can always be there for my son and watch him continue to grow. My wife and I have spent 34 years together. Many people want to know why I waited 30 years to tell everyone. The simplest answer is, I was scared. I didn't want people to think I was crazy. It's something I didn't even tell my family. My mom died in 2005, my dad died in 2007, and I treated it as a pure coincidence. I am not telling you things to scare you. I believe Jesus showed me everything that will happen. I am almost 70 years old. I have nothing to gain and nothing to lose by telling this. I lost my right leg in the accident. The man who hit me had a stroke while he was driving. Unfortunately, he passed away in the accident. The accident opened my eyes to the brevity of life. I became a devout Christian. If World War III does occur, I believe God will not abandon us. God will always be with us. After listening to this story, do you believe that World War III will really happen? Feel free to tell me in the comment section. The next story is from a 68-year-old man who lived alone. One night, he suddenly fell ill and went to heaven. What did he gain in heaven? Let's start our second story of the day. My wife died of cancer 3 years ago. My son is working in another city. I have been living alone for 3 years. For an old man of my age, I am not interested in anything. I rarely go out and I like to lie in bed and watch TV. One morning, I woke up in my sleep. My body started convulsing and I was in great pain. After about 10 minutes, the pain suddenly disappeared. I knew that I was dead. I was floating in the air, and I looked down and saw my body. I wasn't shocked by the sight at all. I just looked at it calmly and I knew that my end had come, without joy or fear. A beautiful, idyllic landscape appeared before me. I was surrounded by intense love. Suddenly, I recalled something. Wasn't this the place where I was born? My God! I was finally home. I am now my true self. I feel very good now, not just mentally. My eyesight is back to its best and for the first time I can see so clearly without my glasses. I saw a room with its white walls. In the room, I heard the sound of voices talking. The voices felt familiar to me. They all seemed to be having a good time, joking with each other. I forget their conversation, but I recognized one of them as my long-deceased uncle. When I was a kid, no one had more humor than he did. Wherever he was, it was full of joy. He brought a lot of joy to my childhood. On my right, I see a beautiful meadow. The grass was clean, without a single weed, as if someone had specially mowed it. The grass was covered with flowers of all colors. Some colors I had never seen before, let alone know how to describe the color. There were also some trees that I didn't know were full of fruits. A group of children were playing under the trees, and I could see that they were very happy. There were many mountains in the distance. I could see people waving at me and I could feel their friendliness. They seemed to be welcoming me. I knew that I was finally home, that this was my family, that I was back where I belonged. At home, everyone loved each other and there was happiness in the air. Later, I was sent to a place where I had a long conversation with a man in a robe. I have forgotten the content of our conversation. When I woke up again, I was back in my own body and I kept coughing. I was thinking that it would be a happy thing to die like that. It was very natural, without any pain, just like sleeping. I had a whole new perspective on death. I had no fear of it because I knew what was waiting for me and what was waiting for all of us. The only thing that confuses me is, why didn't I choose to stay in heaven?